We'll go ahead and begin this afternoon's agenda meeting. This afternoon we'll be reviewing and hearing reports on action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, April 1, right here at 6 o'clock in City Hall. And I'll call upon our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, to review those action items. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor. No fooling. April 1.
Yeah.
You will have several, at least a couple of proclamations, National Cancer Control Month, as well as recognizing our Junior Auxiliary Month. So they will be here to accept a couple of proclamations. Director Garcia will have a few guests at the meeting that evening. And then Gary Troutman, the President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Hot Springs Metro Partnership, will be here to deliver his economic development report. Moving into your consent agenda, the first item is consider Resolution R2550, a resolution approving the purchase of 2 dump trucks from Doggett Freightliner of Arkansas, LLC, an authorized dealer of Daimler Trucks North America, pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $312,864. Our Public Works Director, Ron Seabright, will discuss the item.
Good afternoon. The proposal that we got was on Sourcewell. These 2 vehicles that they will be replacing are vehicle number 4765. It's a 1991 Chevrolet dump truck with about 65,646 miles, and 4766, which is a 1991 Chevrolet with 88,800 miles. We're experiencing a lot of downtime with these vehicles, and now they're pretty much in disrepair. We couldn't get them back on the road after the winter storm, so we're looking at replacing both of these.
Any questions, Ron? Director Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. Did you say this was already in the 25 budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's what I wanted to verify. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R2551, a resolution approving the purchase of 15 30 cubic yard roll-off containers from Wastewater LLC, pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $89,730. Our Solid Waste Director, Samantha Jones, will discuss the item. Okay.
Hello. I'm requesting board approval to purchase 15 30 cubic yard roll-off containers from Wastequip LLC through the Purchasing Cooperative Program Sourcewell. The total purchase price is $89,730, which is less than the amount budgeted in 2025. These containers are used throughout the city for the disposal of construction debris, as well as our spring fling cleanup event. This will enable us to pull older containers from rotation and either rework them or scrap them if they're beyond repair.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R2552, a resolution approving the procurement of 90 commercial front-load containers from Wastequip LLC pursuant to Cooperative Purchase Program through Sourcewell. This will be in the amount of $99,951.60. And again, Sam.
Okay. I'm requesting board approval to purchase 90 front-load containers in various sizes from Wastequip LLC through the Purchasing Cooperative Program Sourcewell. The total purchase price is $99,951.60, which is just under the amount included in our 2025 budget. These containers are used throughout the city to provide solid waste collection to our commercial customers, and again, this will enable us to pull older containers from rotation and either rework them or scrap them if they're beyond repair.
Any questions? What's the useful life of a container?
That just depends. I mean, I have some that are still in rotation and they're 20 to 25 years old. So it takes a while, but and depends on what people are putting in there too.
How did you come up with the number of 90?
Well, that was to get us to the budgeted amount, to keep us under that amount that we had budgeted.
All different sizes, 2 through 8.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you.
Next item is another one for Samantha. Consider Resolution R2553, a resolution approving the purchase of 2 residential rear load collection vehicles from River City Hydraulics, Inc., again pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $499,121.76. Sam?
I am requesting board approval to purchase two 18 cubic yard rear load collection vehicles from River City Hydraulics, Inc. through the Purchasing Cooperative Program Sourcewell. The total purchase price is $499,121.76, which is slightly less than the amount included in our 2025 budget. These trucks will be used to provide weekly garbage collection to residential customers in the city. This purchase will replace units 9428 and 9429, both of which are 10 years old and nearing 10,000 hours. By the time we get the new units in, they will be at 10,000 hours. Both 9428 and 9429 will be sold at auction once the new trucks are received.
Any questions on this item? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is your last item on consent. Consider Resolution R2554, a resolution amending resolutions number 10378 and Title II, Chapter 1 of the Hot Springs Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. And I believe B. Albright will have this one.
Thank you, Bill. This is the section that deals with your administrative and procedural processes. We've had a couple of work sessions regarding things like your travel budget and policies, keys to the city proclamations, mayoral letters, things of that sort. So this resolution has been worked up to address those concerns that have been discussed, giving a little more of a backbone to the structure. It will reference required forms that someone who is requesting this kind of thing will need to fill out. Those will be on file in the city manager's office, including those pre-travel forms and post-travel forms that were discussed last week, I guess, for your travel.
Any questions of Brian?
If there's, you'll get your packets obviously this Thursday. If you have any questions, just give me a call. Director Beard.
Director Beard?
I was going to say that we never talked about the proclamations or the keys to the, or we kind of talked about the keys to the city. So you're saying that all the updates will be in the packet, basically?
Yes, ma'am. There have been in-house policies, if you will, that have been handled through the city manager's office. We've reviewed those, made those a little bit more formal for purposes of your resolution, but the forms that will be utilized will be the same forms that have been in place for a little while.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions of Brian? Okay, thank you.
Next item will be the first under your new business. It's consider Resolution R2555, a resolution approving work order number 25-01 to the At-Risk Construction Management and General Contractor Services Agreement with Hill & Cox Corporation for the construction of the Hot Springs Fire Station number 6 in the amount of $3,623,238. And Fire Chief Ed Davis is here to discuss the item. Chief?
Good afternoon, Directors. On November 5th of 2024, the Hot Springs Board of Directors approved Resolution Number 10,538, establishing an agreement for at-risk construction management and general contractor services with Hill & Cox Corporation. Under the terms of this agreement, Hill & Cox will undertake certain construction projects for the city fiscal years 2024 through 2028. The Board of Directors authorized the purchase of real property on First Security Way with the passage of Resolution Number 10,340 on December 19th of 2023, with a plan to construct an additional fire station to serve the 7 South area of the city. Among the projects considered for implementation within the scope of the CMAR, Contractor Manager at Risk, is the construction of the proposed fire station at 131 Security Way. Work pursuant to the CMAR with Hill & Cox will be done by issuing the work order to that contract. Since November, Hill & Cox have worked diligently with our architects from Craft & Toll Associates to finalize plans for the construction of the city's proposed fire station. After completing the processes of vetting subcontractors, receiving bids, and value engineering the proposals, Hill & Cox have finalized a construction budget for the fire station project. The results of the process have produced a plan that upholds the city's desire to establish a fire station design that complements the neighborhood and establishes a base of operations for the fire department south of the King Expressway. The number 6 fire station is a single-story, 7,445 square foot structure of mixed occupancy composed of an R3 residential living area and an S2 storage apparatus bay. The R3 portion will accommodate 5 firefighters per shift providing separate sleeping pods and restrooms along with a common day room and kitchen. The S2 apparatus bay provides flexibility capable of housing 3 fire or rescue trucks depending upon the city's needs. Work order number 2501 establishes the guaranteed maximum price of $3,623,238 and provides an itemized statement of specifications. A base bid summary reflects the accepted value engineering, resulting in an overall savings of $136,854. The bid tabulation results further illustrates the project cost by category. Project plans are also provided. A budget adjustment will be needed for this action. So the cost of the construction, $3,623,238. And that comes from the former ARPA funds that you guys set aside. It's not included in the fire department budget for 2025. There will have to be a budget transfer to go along with this.
Any questions for the chief? Director
Thank
Garcia?
you, Mayor. Chief, if when this is approved, when would you estimate a groundbreaking?
So that's a wonderful question. We will probably initiate that sometime in late April. And that would be, and we would do it at a time when all the board members could be there, because we would certainly want you to come and celebrate this. Although this is a fire station that protects the southern part of the city, it adds a crew that is available to respond to any part of the city. So it adds to everybody's fire protection. And, you know, I believe in serving the neighborhoods. The area south of the King Expressway is the most underserved area of Hot Springs as far as fire protection. There is no doubt about it. And so what this does is it evens the playing field for those people who came in the annexations, A, B, and C in the southern part of the city.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions of board members? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R 2556, a resolution awarding a bid to Grant Garrett Excavating Inc. for the Washita Water Treatment Plant Backwash Lagoons. This is a large project in the amount of $5,067,809, and our project manager Todd Filler is here to discuss. Todd.
Thank you. Good afternoon. These 2 lagoons we're going to build are very similar in size to the ones we built at the new water plant off of Amity Road. And I had Cody and Chase go back and look. The first pond we did was in 1966. And the current ones we used were built in the year 2000. So they're 25 years old. But we took bids on March 3rd, and Garrett Excavating was the only bid we received. It was in an amount of $5,067,809, and our construction estimate was $5.1 million. So we're just that much under the budget. And this project will be funded from the a board-approved 2023 water bond fund, and it'll take approximately 150 days to complete.
Very good. Any questions of Todd? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Todd, you said the existing lagoons are 25 years old. Are they reached the end of their life? They can't be repaired?
No, since year 2000 to 2025, our water production has gone up. So we have to backwash our filters more, which means we need to put more water into our backwash retention ponds.
Okay.
And we just want to make sure we're in compliance.
We have 3 small ponds today, and so that sediment, we can't keep it cleaned out enough. So when we have our sanitary surveys, that's one of the things that they always discuss with us, is you need to have something that can accommodate additional sedimentation for your backwash. And so these are going to be, as Todd mentioned, about 2 4 million gallon ponds, similar to what we have at the new plant. Over the years, we've increased and made improvements to the Washita treatment plant, but not the lagoons. So this is kind of coming behind about 20 years of improvements to the plant.
Will the old lagoons be filled in? Will
They'll become part of the 2 larger ones.
They'll be absorbed.
Part of.
Yeah.
They'll be absorbed with the expansion.
Gotcha. Thank you. That makes more sense now. Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R 2557, a resolution approving the Community Development Advisory, or CDAC, prioritized recommendations for fiscal year 2025 Community Development Block Grant, our CDBG Annual Action Plan, and our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Kathy Selman, will discuss.
Thank you. Well, it's that time of the year again, and this is a good thing. I'm gonna give you two numbers. One number is $901,339.30. The other number is $375,000. Now that first number, the 901,000, is the number of dollars it would take to fully fund each of the applications that you have received for CDBG funding in the year 2025. 375,000, a much smaller number, is the number that I think we can reasonably expect to be awarded from HUD. As always, or maybe even more than ever, it's very difficult to predict what is going to happen with federal funding. So please keep all of those things in mind as we go through the recommendations from your Community Development Advisory Committee. And I absolutely want you to understand how much time, how much learning, and the hard decisions that they had to make to come up with this recommendation. They are recommending funding amounts. They are also recommending a priority order for the applications that came in. Very, very hard work. And they did that while sitting in a room with the people who put those applications in. So they're working for you. The City of Hot Springs is an entitlement grantee of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program. Authorization of CDBG funds is contingent upon submission and acceptance of an annual action plan detailing how funds will be spent. Annual action plans are due no later than 60 days following an announcement of fiscal year CDBG allocations. Failure to submit an annual action plan on time automatically forfeits grant funds allocated during that fiscal year. So this is us doing our homework so that when we hear that allocation number from HUD, we are ready to move forward with that annual action plan. And that will come to you for a specific approval later this year. Congress's recently approved continuing resolution appears to promise program year 2025 CDBG funding at 100% of program year 2024 levels. However, that is what is the amount of money that is going to HUD for the program. Whether that funding is distributed to grantees at the same level that we had in 2024, we just don't know that. So we have no assurance on the number, and looking backward, we've seen that 375 maybe is a number that we can use as a point to evaluate these applications. Preliminary approval of a prioritized list of CDBG applications enables staff to focus limited resources on completing statutory requirements to further qualify projects and submit an annual action plan within that 60 days of allocation announcement. CDBG recommendations assume $375,000 as the annual funding level, and recognizing the board's 2025 housing goal and also the need for timely project completion in order to meet HUD's spend down requirement, CDBG prioritized applications related to housing as well as those applications that are ready to go as soon as federal funds are approved for Hot Springs CDBG. Applications were solicited and accepted between November 11th and January 31st of this year. The open application period was widely advertised, including Sentinel record notices, press releases online at the city website, public meetings, and direct email to individuals, organizations, and prior applicants. 14 eligible applications came in, representing 7 nonprofits, 2 neighborhood associations, and 2 city departments. Eligible applications were available for review and comment on the city website and in the Planning and Development Office beginning in February. A duly advertised public hearing was held on March 6, 2025 by CDAC, in which applications presented projects and answered questions. Public comment was heard, and following discussion, CDAC unanimously, by a 4-0 vote, recommended a list of projects in prioritized order for your consideration for funding. 17 residents attended the meeting. 2 public comments were heard and considered during the meeting. We need to talk a little bit about specifics that we don't normally cover because of the nature of the, just the funding environment and also the types of requests that we received this year. The first is CDBG caps. HUD specifically caps certain activities under CDBG. For example, administration and planning cannot exceed 20% of the grant total. Public service activities cannot exceed 15% of the grant. C4K, crime prevention, and high impact movement, both are public service programs by HUD definition. If 2025's grant is $375, no more than a total of $56,250 can be eligible for public services. Understanding that, CDAC split that amount and is recommending $28,125 or half of that 15% for each of those applicants. Partial funding. Because the requests so far exceed the estimated grant amount, CDAC recommends funding but at a reduced level for some applications. CDAC recommends 2 Habitat for Humanity applications, and those are spot blight abatement and property acquisition as their number 2 and number 3 priorities because of the Board of Directors housing goal, and they are recommending funding for both of those at 50% of what the application requests. Likewise, Gateway Neighborhood's sidewalk request for Wade Street Park area and pedestrian access to the Resource Center are recommended for partial funding. Phoebe, People Helping Others Excel by Example, has a years-long ongoing John Lee Webb House rehabilitation. Their request was reduced by CDAC because prior year funds remained to be expended. Those funds were not expended because the environmental approval at the federal level expired and had to be started over again. Those studies are being funded through the Brownfields program, not through CDBG, so that is a good thing. On the other hand, CDAC is recommending $10,000 to Phoebe to fund the agency's cultural heritage tourism strategy, and that is an eligible activity. Not recommended for funding, the north side of Morrison Street sidewalks are not recommended for funding because Morrison Street does have sidewalks already along the south side. Stone of Help Resource Center application was noted as possibly being premature as the application was more conceptual than detailed. And Ms. Bin's home was renovated almost 20 years ago through a CDBG housing rehab, and the 2025 request from Ms. Bin's appeared in many ways to be for ordinary maintenance and repair. So there is a detailed listing in the BARF and also in the resolution of what the specific amounts are And there's a tally along the side that shows you what is left if those recommendations are implemented. The final project that was above the line, that is the 375 expected funding, was access to the resource center. And CDEC is recommending the remaining amount that is in the expected grant for funding. That was $9,570. The request was for $54,000, and CDAC's recommended amount here is based only on their expectation that that's what's going to be left. So they're not saying don't only spend $9,570 on access to the resource center. Their intention was that if the grant allows and there is a remainder above $9,570, that you would consider funding the grant in full, not to exceed $54,000. So that's a lot of numbers, a lot of percents, a lot of years, a lot of speculation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. In our packet, will it include how these requests that the recommendation is to reduce the funding requested to 50% or whatever, how that will be made up?
No.
So will any of them have information that included in our packet will it make how much impact or difference it will make? Because in determining how to best spend the money, what's going to make the biggest impact, is it 10 projects that are not done or fewer projects completed?
Right, that's an excellent point. The Habitat for Humanity requests, for example, for land acquisition, they said that they were able to just look at acquiring 50% of what they would otherwise. And the same with the spotlight request that they had. They said that they were able to function at 50% and would be grateful for any funding that would come their way. The public service projects are the ones that probably have the greatest unanswered questions. And I was in contact with our CDBG administrator, Lauren Morphew, today, and she is working now to get from those two agencies, C4K and HIM, a detailed project management plan from them, along with who's going to do what, where they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, how much it's going to cost, and when will they accomplish those things. So I do not have that for your packet. If it is complete and received from them before the packet goes out, I will be sure to get that in there. But that is, that it's just tough with $900,000 in requests. The need is just enormous.
Yes,
And-
it's significant, but
Yeah.
you did a great job in identifying requests that align with the current city board goals, and that's something that I take into great consideration as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
CDEC was very aware of the goals.
Any additional questions? Director Holliday?
Thank you. At least two of the organizations that you mentioned, I can remember we funded before, one being the John Lee Webb House and then also C4K. And can you remind me, when we have gotten the other reports, what level of detail have we already gotten as far as how those organizations have used the funds, and did they reach their benchmarks? Is this an additional ask because they were unable to reach whatever before? Because I would want to know that these organizations have been successful with the funds that we've allocated in the past.
Yes, and those two agencies that you mentioned, Phoebe has been successful with their rehabilitation of the house, and will be focusing now on things that need to be done on the interior. And those things are less hampered by the environmental report requirement, but they're moving ahead on that. Their request for the $10,000 for cultural heritage tourism strategy ties into their ultimate goal for the use of the John Lee Webb House. And so it's an entirely different activity, although it's in the same location. C4K has been funded in the past to do a really terrific program with residents of senior housing to bring kind of a creativity and art experience to them at their place of residence. And they're there every month or so to do that. Their request this time is for a crime prevention effort, so again, takes them in an entirely different direction than their previous funding requests.
Okay, and in our previous reports at the end of the funding cycle, and I should know this because I used to do it, but how much detail do we have per project on that? Like literally how many people were seen, or how many hours of service? Because I'm thinking that level of detail is not.
I can add to your packet, which is already at record-breaking page numbers.
Sorry.
But I can put more in. We can put the caper, which does provide those numbers.
Okay.
And may give you the detail you're seeking.
Okay, yeah, because it's more of a capacity question as opposed to specific to the program question.
Okay.
So, but yeah, just a link to that because it's been a minute. So, thank you.
Okay.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Kathy, earlier you mentioned out of what we're expecting to come from the federal appropriation for HUD funds is somewhere around $375,000. What was the percentage amount that you said is okay to allocate for public services?
15.
15%,
Right.
and that was at 56,000?
Yes.
And that's going to be between Cutwell for Kids and HIM, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if by splitting that 56 into half, if it's going to hit anywhere close to what they were originally asking for? It kind of tapers off of Director Garcia's question earlier.
Yeah.
Is it going to be enough to do what their intended purposes with these funds are for?
They say.
If it's split?
They say that the scope of their activities can be reduced. However, that is why we're asking them
Details.
for a more detailed management plan so that we can understand how they're going to use that money. And it may be, in some cases, that a reduced allocation can work, but in other situations, it really doesn't. So we're asking for them to tell us, what is it that you will do if you receive these funds?
Okay.
Any additional questions? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Kathy, I may have asked this question last year. We've got a lot of what-ifs here. If the 375 becomes 475, do we just go down the list to the next project, or do we fund those first 10 projects at a higher percentage than what we're proposing funding at 375?
Well, CDAC has been very specific about that. And they are saying, this is in your resolution.
Okay.
Should the actual grant exceed the total amount recommended for funding, excess unallocated funds shall be reserved for eligible neighborhood, housing, and economic development infrastructure improvements, where such funds may be used in areas where funds can be used for such projects, or CDAC may recommend other allocation to the Board of Directors. So in typical fashion, we would take this, when we get that number, take it back to CDAC, tell them, you know, we have a little more than we expected. That hardly ever happens. But in case it does. And we did get 401,000 last year, which is a little bit more. So, yeah, but we'll take it to CDAC, and they will make a recommendation to you, and we'll get that to you to make your final choice.
And on the other side of that coin, if the 375 is 325, does it just cut out the last project that was funded?
It goes in the priority order that
Right.
CDAC is recommending.
Okay.
We're getting partway through item number 11, or possibly all the way through, depending on how much
Okay.
we actually get. But you may find that you're stopping at item number 7.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Your next item will be your first ordinance of the evening. It's ordinance O-2514, an ordinance waiving the requirement of competitive bidding and approving certain emergency dewatering goods and services from Kadon Industries USA, Inc. for the Davidson Drive wastewater plant. This is not in amount not to exceed $225,000. Our Utilities Director, Monty Ledbetter, will present the item.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. Yes, utility is requesting emergency approval of a proposal for dewatering project at the Davis Wastewater Treatment Plant, which was approved by the city manager in accordance with Hot Springs Code 2-3-4, paragraph 17. Due to an ongoing construction at the plant, the capacity has been reduced, of course. The plant is currently about 2/3 full, and is unable to remove all the solids that's in the plant. So if we don't remove the solids, then we will more than likely violate our permit. So we requested proposals from 3 different companies, Kadon Industries, Morrell Brothers, and GSM Filtrations. We received 2 of those proposals back. Kadon provided us a not to exceed cost of $225,000, and Morrell's provided us with a proposal in the amount of $391,280, and GMS did not provide us with a proposal. Kadon has been on the site, and they believe they can complete the project 12 days or less. The city has issued a purchase order to Kadon for the amount of $225,000 not to exceed. Due to the imminent situation, the city manager has approved emergency proposal and now requesting waiver of competitive bidding and approval of the emergency purchase to in accordance with the Hot Springs Code 2-3-4-7, or paragraph 17. We'll be transferring funds from one wastewater fund to another fund to cover this cost.
Any questions, Amani? Hearing none, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next item is consider ordinance O-2515, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding and authorizing a contract for services with the Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance for administration of the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas Public Art Program. Our Parks and Trails Director, Anthony Whittington, has been working with them and will present the item. Anthony?
Thank you, Bill. Good afternoon. The mission of the Hot Springs Area Cultural Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2014, is to celebrate, advocate, and promote the arts in Hot Springs, Arkansas. The HSCCA, in partnership with Hot Springs Area Community Foundation, established an endowment in 2022 to help ensure ongoing support of the organization's mission. This organization is uniquely situated to provide valuable professional leadership to support the City of Hot Springs Public Art Program, assist in the expansion of permanent and temporary placement of public art pieces, expand opportunities for a wider variety of public art, examine sources of additional funding for art, and help lay a groundwork for a future public art master plan for the city. Pursuant to state law, cities may, by ordinance, waive the requirements of competitive bidding in exceptional situations where such procedure is found to not be feasible or practical. Staff recommends the Board of Directors consider waive competitive bidding and authorize a contract for services with the Hot Springs Agricultural Alliance to serve as the administrator of the City of Hot Springs' public art program as set out in the proposal, which is in your board packet. The negotiated contract would be for an annualized amount of $25,000 to be paid in quarterly installments. However, because this contract will commence on April 1st, 2025, in quarter 2 of 2025, payments for 2025 will be made in 3 equal installments of $6,250 in quarter 2, 3, and 4. This contract will be funded from the Parks and Trails art acquisition line item approved in the 2025 budget.
Any questions on this item? Dudley?
Thank you, Mayor. Anthony, this public art program, or would they have autonomy to make decisions on what happens with art, or would they be reporting back to the Parks and Trails Advisory Committee to then bring it back to the board? How does that work?
Correct. They will facilitate the Arts Advisory Committee.
Arts Advisory.
Yeah, Arts Advisory. I'll sit in on the meetings, but they will facilitate it, and any recommendations, especially on city-owned property, will definitely come before you all before we make a decision. So,
okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. Anthony, will we have a budget or an explanation of exactly what they're going to do with these funds? Are these just general funds that go in, or are they for a specific purpose?
Therefore, the purpose of acquiring public art for
So all of the $6,250 a quarter will be spent, maybe not during that quarter,
correct.
but
Yeah, $25,000 total.
will be spent on public
and it can
art.
go for sculptures. It can go for public art hanging in public buildings.
Okay.
Those kind of things.
All right, thank you.
Some of these funds, though, we budgeted those for public art acquisition, so we're using the funds from that line item. In your package, you'll have a set of deliverables that we're expecting from this agreement. And it's to facilitate the Arts Advisory Committee meetings, drafting and distribution of calls for artists. We really need to look at our overall policy on how we're dealing with art collection in the city. Right now, that needs to be reviewed and almost rewritten as a policy document that we can bring back to the board for approval. And honestly, Anthony and I have had several discussions on this. Neither one of us as staff, we don't know a lot about the arts community in ways that an artist would. So, having artists help us through this process, I think, is important. One of the things that Director Holliday and I have discussed for over a year now was how we could take a new look at this, because right now we're buying a lot of sculptures for the Greenway that look alike. They're coming from the same artist. A lot of those times it's because they're giving us deals like, you buy one, we'll give you one, like 2-for-1s. But what we're starting to see is really an art form that's pretty consistent throughout the Greenway. So we wanted to take a look at that. In the board's, the responsibilities and duties of your Arts Advisory Committee today is review and recommend placement of permanent art at publicly owned facilities in the city, assist in the organization and promotion of temporary art exhibits at publicly owned facilities, and then assist in the securing of private grant funding and art donations from permanent art displays throughout our public buildings. Some of those things aren't really happening right now, so I think having this group work together and facilitate some of these with our current Arts Advisory Committee could help bring this back to something we can bring back to the board that will give us a little bit better picture of the duties and responsibilities that we expect from the committee. And we may find that this relationship or the cultural arts, we may not have a need for an Arts Advisory Committee. We may, but we just don't know. We want to look at all that as we bring it back to you, because we kind of have two groups doing similar things. So that's kind of how this came about for us to take a look at this agreement with the Cultural Arts Alliance.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. If those that represent this public art program were to apply to be a part of that advisory committee, would it not save the city $25,000?
We do have someone on on both. I believe the executive director for the cultural arts is on the Arts Advisory Committee. But it won't save 25,000. You know, we're going to have to buy art if we want to continue to have art. So all we're doing this year is instead of buying art pieces, is looking at the whole program to see if we can have a better program that we can bring back to the board that meets your goals in the future. We've kind of strayed away from that. There's not a lot of I don't want to say oversight, because Anthony is always there with the staff. But, you know, again, we've kind of gotten into this. It seems like we're in one lane instead of looking at the overall picture of what we're trying to do with our art acquisitions in the city. So we'll continue to budget for art acquisition. This year, though, we want to make sure that we've got a better picture or bringing something back to the board if we're going to have an Arts Advisory Committee. This hasn't been reviewed in since probably, I don't know how long. I don't recall it in my time. So
Yeah, before my
we want to
time.
make sure that we're still on target with what this board expects this committee to do.
But the bottom line is, there's no increase in budget.
There is no
It's already
increase.
in the budget.
Correct,
And this
correct.
committee has been having this in their annual,
You're
in
act-
our
you're-
annual budget.
You're actually going to spend $6,250 less than you
Yeah.
did last year.
True.
Yep.
Okay, any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider ordinance O-2516, an ordinance amending Hot Spring Code 16-4-1, the subdivision code of the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas, repeal certain ordinances pertaining to the territorial jurisdiction of the planning area boundary and policies, and for other purposes. And again, our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Selman, will discuss.
Thank you. Okay, this one's full of Arkansas codes and ordinance numbers. But the bottom line is that the state of Arkansas, years ago, in the 60s, made it possible for certain municipalities to prepare plans, ordinances, and regulations beyond the city limits for 5 miles. And in 1965, Hot Springs adopted an ordinance establishing that planning area. In 2009, the city passed an ordinance establishing rules, regulations, and criteria for development of subdivisions and land divisions within the city of Hot Springs, Arkansas, and its extraterritorial jurisdiction. That was a new subdivision code. In 2013, the legislature reduced that jurisdictional area from 5 miles to 1 mile beyond the corporate limits, and Hot Springs amended our ordinance accordingly. But on March 13th of this year, both houses of the Arkansas legislature passed House Bill 1510, an act to amend the law concerning territorial jurisdiction of municipalities, to repeal the authority for a municipality to exercise territorial jurisdiction over an unincorporated area of a county and for other purposes. Now HB 1510 has a new name. It is Act 314. And that act will become effective 90 days after the close of the current legislative session, and our adopted planning area jurisdiction will go away. Knowing that the current City of Hot Springs planning area boundaries and policies will no longer be in effect then by midsummer of 2025, we're recommending that you promptly consider repealing the city's planning area boundary and policies to avoid unnecessary delays and costs for landowners in the current planning area, because for the next 3 months, they will be required to get approval for certain land divisions and other activities, but at the end of that 90 days, they won't. So in the interest of fairness, an ordinance is presented to amend the subdivision ordinance by repealing the adopted planning area boundary map effective May 1st, 2025. The resulting changes to the code sections will be noted in a red line copy of the subdivision ordinance, which will be included in your packet.
Any questions of Kathy? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. If there is any impact to the connections for water and wastewater from this, will that be included in our packet?
I am not aware of what that might be. I'm sure someone else is.
Well, yeah, we're not completely sure how that's going to work out. It's my position that with regard to water and sewer, it's our connections, so we should be able to continue to do the plumbing inspections with respect to that, how the lines are laid, where they go, all of everything regarding that. But with regard to subdivision zoning, that's over.
Right. I understand that. My question was if there is any impact to the water and sewer connections.
We will still have them abide by our plumbing codes and our connection policies.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? And Kathy, you said it takes effect 90 days after the close of the legislative session. I guess we're also assuming the governor signs that.
It has been signed.
The governor
Okay.
signed it. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yep.
think she signed it Friday. maybe.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, thanks.
Next item is consider ordinance O-2517, an ordinance amending Hot Springs Code 16-1-1.1, restructuring the planning commission as it pertains to the territorial jurisdiction of the planning area boundary and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. Well, I think we know all about the history of the planning area going back to 1965. We have a number of ordinances that established our territorial jurisdiction, and leading up to ordinance number 6142, which provided to increase planning commission membership to include 2 members who reside outside city limits but within the planning commission's planning jurisdiction in accordance with ACA 1456-413. Because of Act 314, where that territorial jurisdiction of municipalities has been repealed, this ordinance proposes that because we're eliminating the territorial jurisdiction, that the Board of Directors restructure Planning Commission to remove those 2 positions reserved for members residing within the unincorporated area of Garland County, and to, at the same time, reconstitute the terms of the remaining membership. And there are 2 other resolutions, 10409 and 10189, that also will be amended with the passage of this proposed ordinance. So, short version, Planning Commission goes from 9 members to 2, all members residing within the corporate limits of the city of Hot Springs.
9 members to 7.
9 to 7.
9 to 7,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 positions. Okay.
yeah.
Mayor, just a quick follow-up on that. There is an indirect effect that this has on BZA, for example, because BZA is made up of members on the Planning Commission, which currently has an extraterritorial jurisdiction member on there. Your boards and commissions, the deadlines for new applications and reappointments coming up at the end of the month, March 31st. Some of those people have already reapplied and maybe won't be eligible at this point. So just be aware of that when you're looking at the applications that you may receive or conversations you may have.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Kathy on this? Thank you.
Next item is consider ordinance O-2518, an ordinance amending the zoning map for 2748 Malvern Avenue from R2 residential to CN neighborhood commercial, amending the future land use plan map to neighborhood commercial center and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you. Okay, this too has a little bit of a quirk. This rezone application came in on January 22nd of this year, which was just prior to the March 1st effective date of the city's new zoning code. So this application is being evaluated on the zone districts and zoning regulations that were in effect at the time that the application came in January. This is probably the only one of these that you will see. Can't promise that. There are some things that have been floating around, don't know what's going to happen to them. Anyway, so that's what we're doing, and through the whole thing, you'll hear references to the old code, including the zone district that is being requested, which is C3, but when you get to the end, we can't award a C3 zone district. It will be CN, because that is what the district is now called. So that's the very short version of this. The applicant and property owner is Jerry Young, and the request is to change from R2 suburban residential to C3 office neighborhood commercial for that subject property. It has a future land use plan map designation of residential low, and it's in Board of Directors District Number 6. It's currently developed with a single-family home that is now vacant. It's about 2 acres and includes lots 5 through 9 of Skyway subdivision, approximately 250 feet of street frontage along Malvern Avenue, also called Arkansas Highway 270. This is close to Lakeside Public Schools, and it's within a mile of the Malvern Avenue MLK Expressway interchange. A very small portion of this land toward the back is in a floodplain. Adjacent and nearby land uses are the public schools, shopping center, convenience store, manufactured home park, duplex residential, and single-family residential. The regulations for the C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial Zone District are found in Hot Springs Code at section 16254. The concept and description are that the C3 district allows limited commercial along with office development in proximity to residential areas. Further, the district exists to promote mixed-use developments that increase the use of non-vehicular traffic. C3 districts also serve as proper buffers between low-density residential and higher-intensity commercial uses. Building masses should be modest and in scale with residential developments. Although primarily serving surrounding neighborhoods, C3 businesses must rely upon the migration of customers from outside neighborhood boundaries. Access and traffic circulation are key issues in their location. The future land use plan map would need to be amended to neighborhood commercial to be consistent with the requested C3 zone district. The applicant has successfully demonstrated that standards for favorable consideration have been met. Planning Commission was able to establish a basis for recommending to you that the proposed change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning and is consistent with the objective of the zoning code, that C3 district. At their duly advertised March 13, 2025 public meeting, Planning Commission voted 6-0 to accept the staff report findings and recommendation to approve amending the zoning map for 2748 Malvern Avenue to C3, which will become CN, Neighborhood Commercial Zone District, and to amend the future land use plan map to neighborhood commercial because the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning. It's consistent with the objectives of the zoning code, and with the future land use plan map amendment, the change will implement an adopted plan.
Any questions of Kathy on this item? Hearing none, thank you.
Your next item is ordinance O-2519, an ordinance amending Hot Spring Code Title 16, Chapter 7, restructuring Hot Springs Historic District Commission by adding positions 6 and 7 at large for a total of 7 positions, amending certain ordinances and for other purposes. And again, Kathy.
Thank you. I promise this is my last one. In the 2024-2025 budget years, you funded heritage and historic preservation plans citywide, and that plan is now underway. It articulates a shared vision and specific action steps and initiatives for preserving the community's heritage. The vision results from a year-long public conversation with residents and stakeholders from public and nonprofit and private sectors regarding the preservation issues that matter to them. We've had an amazing turnout for plan-related activities on this project. One of those nights when it was, freezing cold and snowing and wet and everything, 35 people turned out for a meeting on preservation in Hot Springs, and that was a remarkable turnout and a tremendous, wonderful surprise. Plan stewardship and implementation. Active stewardship and oversight of the Heritage and Historic Preservation Plan will ensure that it remains a relevant living document demonstrating our commitment to preserving and protecting our historic built environment. The plan itself will present a 10-year time horizon for implementation. While several of the preservation planning actions will have short and finite implementation timelines, resulting in concrete and measurable accomplishments, others will require administration and management as part of ongoing initiatives involving the Historic District Commission, other municipal departments and government agencies, and our local preservation partners. So the rationale for restructuring the Historic District Commission at this time, we're very lucky to have Director Dobb Smith, who has been with us since the beginning, I think, on this. The current 5-member commission rightfully represents the city's well-established preservation scheme of 2 local ordinance districts, Central Avenue Historic District and Pleasant Street Historic District. As the city expands its preservation scope to encompass heritage assets beyond the 2 original districts and to more fully acknowledge resources dating into the 1970s, 2 at-large representatives could reflect the additional time and space focus without diluting the importance of the existing local ordinance districts. And all of the establishing ordinances will be in your packet. But in 1988, a 5-member commission was established to administer Central Avenue's district. When the board approved the Pleasant Street Historic District in 2005, the commission membership was increased to 7. In 2009, the board reorganized the commission and reduced the number of members again to 5. Each of the ordinances provided for members to reside in or otherwise represent the adopted local ordinance districts plus 1 architect. At this time, with the expansion of focus to preservation citywide, it appears reasonable to add 2 at-large seats to the existing 2 Pleasant Street, 2 Central Avenue, and 1 architect for a total of 7 seats. That's it.
Any questions of Kathy on this ordinance? Hearing none? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is consider ordinance O-2520, an ordinance awarding an exclusive franchise agreement to Survival Flight EMS LLC for the provision of medical emergency and non-emergency services and for other purposes. And Chief Ed Davis is here to present the item. Chief?
Directors. On November 19th of 2024, the City of Hot Springs issued a request for proposals for ambulance services 4 contractors responded to the city's request: Pafford Medical Services, Survival Flight EMS, Southern Paramedic Services, and LifeNet Inc. A review committee composed of Deputy City Manager Lance Spicer, Police Chief Billy Harberton, Fire Assistant Chief Tom Broughton, and Fire Chief Ed Davis were appointed by the city manager to review the proposals and rate and rank the respondents. After completing the process of vendor evaluation, the committee members scored each of the respondents in 5 categories: qualifications and experience, proposed method of service, capability and availability, cost, and if the respondent was a disadvantaged women or minority-owned business. After the scores were compiled, the prospective vendors were ranked in the following order: Number 1, Survival Flight EMS. Number 2, LifeNet Incorporated. Number 3, Pafford Medical Services. And number 4, Southern Paramedic Service. The scoring details have been provided in your packet, and a notice of intent to award this contract to Survival Flight has been published. Survival Flight is and has been a community stakeholder in Hot Springs for 6 years, operating an aeromedical helicopter on the MPMC campus. Survival Flight boasts an impressive operational track record with numerous successful ground EMS operations across the country. 16 years after its founding, Survival Flight as a whole now employs over 700 employees in 10 different states. References from other service areas consistently highlight the company's excellent reputation. Survival Flight distinguishes itself with higher employee qualification and training standards when compared to its peers. Additionally, Survival Flight offers a more patient-centric billing structure. Survival Flight does not impose charges for individual supplies. This flat rate approach would alleviate billing confusion and reduce the cost to uninsured patients in Hot Springs. If the Board of Directors chooses to approve a franchise agreement with Survival Flight EMS, Hot Springs Fire Department has prepared an outline of transfer of services from the current provider to the new provider. The EMS franchise holder in Hot Springs is self-sustaining and receives no city funding. Therefore, there is no adverse financial impact on the City of Hot Springs by awarding the franchise agreement to Survival Flight EMS.
Any questions of Chief Davis? Director Beard?
Thank you, Mayor. I was listening to the meeting last week, or when I was in Washington, and you'd mentioned that there needs to be a great relationship between the emergency room and the fire department. Is that something that you recall?
I'm sorry, ma'am, could you repeat that? I couldn't
Yes.
understand you.
Okay. In the meeting, you spoke about the Survival Flight before?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then you'd mentioned, I only listened to it, so if I've said something wrong, then
No,
please
that's fine.
correct me. You'd mentioned that there needs to be a great relationship between the fire department and the emergency room, people that bring people to the emergency room. Could you speak about that?
Yes, ma'am. So one thing that the fire department does, no matter who the provider of ambulance services is, we're going to provide first responder services in support of them. In other words, whenever there is a patient that, say, is hit by an automobile accident or has cardiac arrest or some other type of medical emergency, the fire department will respond out with the EMS provider to help stabilize the patient and also to help provide extra hands. Whenever you're dealing with someone who is in a very bad situation, in other words, a medical event that is directly a threat to their life, having a number of hands available is very important. So many times the fire department or a firefighter will actually ride in the back of the ambulance to the hospital to assist. It may be they are giving CPR, helping to assist with other patient care activities. There's a lot of things that we do in support of the ambulance provider, and that'll continue no matter who has a contract.
Okay, but you made the statement that there needs to be a good relationship between the EMS provider and the fire department. So my question, maybe more directly, is that not what's in place already?
So what's in place already is an agreement. It's a franchise agreement, and it has to be renewed every 5 years. And that's gone on, Chief, for quite a few years. We went back to, trying to remember exactly the date when we did remember. Let me get to my report, and I can tell you. LifeNet has held the EMS contract for Hot Springs for a number of years. Let's see, find that date for you.
About 2005.
Okay,
20
thank you.
About 20 years.
So they've had it for 20 years, and during that time, they've given good service for the most part of that. That's why we renew it every 5 years, though, just to ensure that Hot Springs has the best ambulance service.
Okay, so maybe I'm not being clear. let me ask it a different way. LifeNet is the current provider. Do they not have a good relationship with the emergency room at the hospital, at both hospitals? Is there a problem with what's going on specifically with LifeNet and the emergency room?
I can't speak for the hospitals, ma'am.
Okay.
I can only speak for the fire department, and to some extent, I can speak for the police department and city administration. I mean, all of us were involved in doing the evaluation of the different respondents who put packages in, when the city put out the request for proposals. And, we're saying that we believe that Survival Flight is probably the best candidate to provide services for the city of Hot Springs. Had Survival Flight not put a packet in, and it had just been these three organizations, by the scoring, we would be, saying that LifeNet should be the incumbent and you should renew the contract with them. But Survival Flight did put in a packet. And they had the best presentation, and we believe that they will actually be the best choice to serve the city.
Okay. Well, when you made the comment, I was looking for some kind of problem, and I don't see that from what you said. Okay. And my next question is, you'd also mentioned that if you were to have a cardiac emergency, you would want Survival Flight to show up. So could you speak about that?
Sure. From my personal experience, based on their training, based on their expertise, based on what I know about the organization, that would be the organization I would choose for myself if I could.
Okay. Well, if you're having a cardiac emergency, would you care who showed up, or do you just want to be like your breathing restored, or your heart going back to working regular? I just...
Well, there's a lot of different facets to that question. I'll answer them real quick. So, no, I wouldn't want just anybody showing up. Would I want just an ambulance attendant and an EMT showing up? Absolutely not. Would I want a paramedic and an EMT showing up? At the minimum, yes. Would I want a flight paramedic showing up? Someone trained to that level? Absolutely. That's what I would rather have. I would rather have the best trained paramedic showing up to do CPR on me, to issue drugs to me. Say if I required some type of therapeutic drugs or something like that, I would want that best trained, most capable, most able paramedic working on me. And we just believe that's what Survival Flight offers.
Well, Chief, that could also be a Girl Scout that knows CPR.
Well, anyone knowing CPR is better than nobody. And if we have a Girl Scout that showed up and that was the only one qualified to do CPR, let her do CPR on me.
I was a Girl Scout, I just said that. If I saw you lying out on the sidewalk, I would,
Sure.
I'd start doing that until someone could come. Or I could just probably save you myself,
Well, and that would be fine.
Okay. I'm just like, I don't want you picking who comes to save you. That would, unless you want to do that. Okay, that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Chief, let me jump in a second. I want the board to know that we're in a very good position as a city. We've got two really, really good companies vying for the EMS service for the city of Hot Springs. They're both really, really good. From what we don't have experience with Survival Flight, but everything we've heard from those that we've contacted has been great. We know that LifeNet's a good provider. They've been here for 20 years. We had a few episodes that led me to believe we needed to do an RFP. Going into that process, we thought LifeNet would come back in hands down, have the contract, but it gave us an opportunity to negotiate and talk about some of the things that we've experienced. In that process, Survival Flight submitted one. They rated and ranked those individually between four of them and submitted those, and it happened that Survival Flight was the highest rated. So when that happens, we bring that to the board as the highest rated firm in an affirmative. But whatever this board decides, we make recommendations, the board makes decisions, and if the board's decision is that we need to go back and negotiate with the second rated, you can do that by voting this ordinance down. But I just want to say that we're not in a bad position either way you go. We've got two really good companies vying for our service, and I appreciate the chief and everyone that had to sit through that, because it was a tough RFP to go through and have to rate and rank. I know that was a tough one, and I wanted to kind of end it there, though, or at least say that I think we're in a great position to have two good providers vying for the service in our community.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Davis, I just want to see if you can provide just a couple of things in our packet going into Thursday. The first is in regards to the EMT Advisory Committee. Are you aware that that was established maybe 2014-ish, somewhere in that realm?
And there were some, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But if you have any of those records, like who was on it, what their responsibilities were, what their obligations were, what if any minutes were recorded, attendance dates and so forth, could that be provided into our packet? And it's my understanding that that advisory committee was actually established by the board of directors, so I'm not so sure why it was dissolved. And if the committee was dissolved, should that not have been a decision made by the board?
It was.
It was.
Well, it was?
Yeah, the board did
Okay.
make that decision.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And if that's the case, I would like us to think between now and maybe next Thursday, should we not consider bringing that advisory committee back to life?
Sure. I think when you read the contract, you'll see.
Okay, okay. Well, that was one. Did you want to add?
Are you still wanting that? And if so, how far back do you want minutes of all these meetings?
Well, I think it was dissolved in January of '22. Does that sound right? Yep. Just, a couple of examples. It doesn't have to go far back, but I just kind of want to see what their purview was, obligations, what, if any, type of issues were occurring that the oversight might have provided and how they took steps to address those issues and so forth. And then who was on it, not in a sense of a name of a person, but what representation within the community did that person provide? Like, was it a doctor, was it a physician, and so forth?
It was primarily physicians from the two hospitals that populated the board.
Okay.
And one of the issues that we ran into was keeping people at that level interested in the committee. It got to the point to where that we were having fewer and fewer and fewer show up. That's the reason why it needs to be the hospital administrator's designee and not an appointed name, because the appointed names get to a point to where that they become bored with it, and you just don't have the people showing up like you did in the past.
Okay.
When Dr. Borland was here, she ramrodded that for many, many years. Judy Borland was an excellent, excellent doctor. Once she retired, though, we did not have that force in the medical community that exhorted people to stay engaged in operating in it. And so that's one of the reasons. There were other reasons as well. That board was kind of an oversight board for both city and county. We are now operating just as a city. So you would need to have a reformed board in a different structure than what you had in the past. And I believe that having those designees of the hospital administrators will ensure us that we will have someone at every meeting. It's a good structure, and I think that it will provide good feedback on the level of services that the ambulance service are giving.
Speaking to the attendance of the meeting, Chief, could it have been that, the physicians were operating on somebody at the time?
Many times, I'm sure that's the case.
But regardless,
Right.
You're just saying moving forward, if we were to reestablish that committee, you would want to see it to where we could have somebody there.
Yeah, designees would be
Right.
important, because the thing about it
That could
is,
speak for
it's
the
easy,
hospital.
and I do this myself, I overcommit, and then it gets to a point to where that you have too much going on. And, doctors are the busiest people in the entire world. No one works more hours than they do. I mean, I would put their
I
hours
would
up
argue and
against-
say teachers probably do. but-
Well, they do though. And I mean, our medical professionals are excellent people, and they want to solve problems. When there's not problems to solve, they move on to the next problem.
That was the first. Thank you, Chief. The second is, can we have a list of the charges that both survival and LifeNet in the packet too?
Yes,
'Cause
sir.
I think there may have been some misunderstanding.
Actually, I can break that down for you if you want to. I can go over the constituent pricing of each one of the different respondents, so that you understand why we bundled all of the different costs together in a theoretical run where you would use all of their services. It was the only way to compare
Right.
apples to apples. I mean, there was just no other way that we could think of to do it like that.
Right, and that I think is where some of the confusion was coming from, is because we were looking at, per se, like the whole menu of services provided from all of the potential service providers, whereas I think what was confusing to many is they just automatically assume that that's going to be my average cost, when in fact, not everybody that rides an ambulance is going to take everything off that
I'm
menu.
prepared to break those down for you right now if you wish.
Well, I've-
They're in your package.
Okay.
You'll have them.
That was the second, and then the third was the incident from 2022, which I believe involves a lady who fell off of a motorcycle just out here. Could we have a breakdown of kind of that timeline?
Sure.
As well, to include not just what happened, but what type of call was originally put out, how that call was changed about 8 minutes later, and what it ended up resulting in for the lady, and, you know, the response time and so forth. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Additional questions for the chief?
Mayor, you've
Chief,
got about
on the-
1,220 pages on that, so we'll add those and get you a few more.
Okay, so in that 120 pages, that's you have a rate and rank, the criteria, the document that you
sir.
scored on, they'll be included in there?
Yes, sir, it's in there as well. There are several different documents that are in there. There is a couple of spreadsheets that have all of the constituent costs and the breakdown associated with them. There are 6 primary areas of costs. They accounted for most of the cost associated with the final figures. If you'll look through here, most of the Schedule A cost and pricing schedule, you'll see that whenever you get your packet, includes the itemized costs associated with other treatment charges. Go through that, kind of gives you an idea of why some of the different respondents wound up with the amounts that they wound up with. You know, and also, I think you'll see that most of the respondents were flat rate. In other words, an easier way to actually bill the cost associated with each run. But each one is broken down. If you have questions about what the different types of transport are, like specialty care or ALS, advanced ALS care, those kind of things, I'd be more than happy to give you the definitions for those.
Chief, on survival flight, you know, if the vote is in their favor next week, and I guess there's 90 days or so for a transition to occur.
Yes, sir.
What has been represented to you as far from survival flight as to their assets that they're bringing in, i.e. vehicles?
Yes, sir. They are required by contract to bring in 5 ALS vehicles to serve the city of Hot Springs. They're also required to establish 3 different stations for their personnel to operate out of. They will be bringing in people, a mix of people from their outlying agencies that they run in different areas. Some of those are flight paramedics, some of those are ground paramedics. They will also say that they will be hiring, as many of the LifeNet people as, you know, that meet their standards. So I think that they will, within 90 days, they will have established a large enough crew to deal with the normal responses, also to cover vacations, cover sickness and things of that nature. They'll also have a dispatch center that's established for themselves here as well, have a headquarters established. They'll have all of the functions of an ambulance service that meet the requirements of CAS, meet the other national standards by the health department in 90 days.
I guess one of the things I'm perhaps concerned with is just the availability of appropriate vehicles.
Yes, sir.
And at a quality level. I mean, today we are going to get rid of a number of city dump trucks and whatnot, and they're at basically end of life.
Yes, sir.
Are they going to pick up ambulances that are towards the end of life, or are we getting brand new
That's a great
ambulances?
question. You know, as far as like them being able to acquire brand new ambulances in this time period, no, they will not be able to do that. You know, they will have to buy what is available on the open market. You know, I would imagine that some of the vehicles that they will buy probably will be in, you know, have maybe 80,000, 100,000 miles on them. I don't think that they will have more than that, but you know, who Who's to say? I mean, I would imagine what they're going to do is they're going to go buy ambulances that are used by municipal fire departments. In one of these situations, that's normally what happens, because most fire departments will put their ambulances up for sale after they hit close to 100,000 miles. So it'll be something along those lines. They won't have any choice. You can't just go and order an ambulance and get it in 90 days. I mean, that will not happen. I don't want to mislead you and make you think it will. It won't.
Well, one of the things that you taught me over the years is that from a firefighter standpoint is you want to have reliable equipment.
You do.
In your trucks, and you're putting people in harm's way, your staff, and they got to have confidence that the pumper truck's going to pump water and the ladder truck's going to extend and
Yes, sir.
retract and all that kind of stuff. And so the same thing with the ambulance service. You know, you're going out on a call, you got to get to the call.
Right.
Then you got to get back to the emergency room. So
Yes, sir. So the board has a tough decision to make, and I don't envy you. I didn't like bringing this to you and saying, hey, you know, make this decision. But you did charge us with evaluating ambulance services, and then this is the way it fell out. If you make a decision to, you know, to go against the incumbent or go against what we've recommended, I have no ill feelings towards you, and I have no ill feelings towards LifeNet, right? I've just presented to you the truth as I saw it, and as the other members of the evaluation board saw it.
Director Trustee.
Thank you, Chief, Mayor. Chief, on the rate and rank sheets, will there be explanations of particular rankings? I rank this person 5 out of 10 instead of 10 out of 10. Will there be any explanation?
The criteria that was used, yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. We followed the criteria that was established for each one of the different categories.
Okay. And there will be explanations?
To some extent, there will
Yeah,
be.
to some
There's notes that are included and things of that nature with each one. And if you have a particular question, you know, you can reach out and we'll be happy to answer that for you.
Certainly. Thank you.
Any Director Beard?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, you speak very highly of Survival Flight, but have you ever done a Google search on them?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, this completes the review of the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. Certainly all these items that we hear each and every other Tuesday merits our complete attention, but certainly the ambulance is a very, very important one. So I know I shouldn't have to say, and I know you will, we'll all do our due diligence and be schooled and ready for this important decision we're about to make. So, Bill, is there anything else?
No, Mayor, I think that sums it up.
All right. Well, we're all adjourned, and enjoy your evening.